Welcome to The Explainer. All right, if you've ever spent any time writing JavaScript, you know you have to deal with asynchronous code. And if you've done that, you've almost certainly run into the dreaded pyramid of doom. Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain on Promises, the incredible tool that flattens that pyramid and finally makes async code clean, clear, and a whole lot less painful. So here's what we're diving into. First, we'll look at the core problem of, well, waiting around for code to finish. Then we'll bring in Promises as the hero of our story, break down how they work, see how they turn a total mess into a clean pipeline, and wrap up with why they are just so essential for any modern JavaScript developer. Let's do it. Okay, so to really get why Promises are such a game changer, you've first got to feel the pain of the problem they were born to solve. And that is the fundamental challenge of waiting for things to happen in JavaScript. You've definitely seen this, right? That moment a web page just locks up while something big is loading? That's what we call synchronous or blocking code. It means one task has to finish 100% before the next one can even think about starting. It's like being stuck in a single file line. Everyone waits on the person at the front. Now, to stop that from happening, JavaScript is built around an asynchronous model, especially for things that take a while, like fetching data or loading a file. This is the multi-lane highway approach. It keeps your app feeling alive and responsive, so the user can keep clicking and scrolling while all that heavy lifting happens in the background. For a long time, the main tool we had for this was the callback. And the idea is pretty simple. You just pass a function into another function, and you say, hey, once you're done with your job, call this function for me, will ya? But, and this is a huge but, what happens when you need to do one async thing and then another based on that result and then another? Well, you get this deeply nested, sideways drifting nightmare that developers very accurately call the pyramid of doom or callback hell. And let me tell you, it is just awful to try and read, let alone debug. Yeah, that pyramid thing, that was just not going to work long term. The language desperately needed a cleaner, saner way to manage all this. And that's exactly where Promises step in. When they were officially added to JavaScript, they weren't just an improvement, they changed everything. And look, don't just take my word for it. This wasn't some minor tweak. As one of the people who literally wrote the spec says, Promises are one of the most important tools a modern JavaScript programmer has, period. So what exactly is a promise? At its core, it's just an object that represents a future value. It's like an IOU from your code. It's a placeholder for a result that you don't have right now, but you're definitely expecting to get, eventually. I love this analogy. Think about ordering a coffee. You place your order. That's the async task. They don't hand you the coffee right away. Instead, they give you a receipt. That receipt is your promise. It's not coffee, but it's a guarantee that you'll get coffee in the future. And it lets you step away from the counter and not hold up the line. Okay, so let's stick with that coffee shop idea. That little receipt, our promise, has a life of its own. In fact, every single promise exists in one of three very distinct states. It always starts its life as pending. Your order's in, you're waiting. It's in limbo. From there, it can only go one of two ways. It can become fulfilled. They call your name, you get your coffee, success. Or it can be rejected. The barista walks over and says, sorry, our espresso machine just broke. It's a failure. Once it's fulfilled or rejected, it's settled. It can't change again. And here's the cool part. When you're the one writing the code, you get to be the barista. You're given two functions, resolve and reject. When your async task is done and everything's great, you call resolve and pass along the value. If something went wrong, you call reject and pass along the reason why. You're in control. So, pending, fulfilled, rejected. Great. But how does that simple idea solve our massive pyramid problem? This is where the real elegance of Promises shines through. This is how we go from that tangled mess to a beautiful, clean pipeline. I mean, just look at that difference. On the left, callback hell. On the right, a promise chain. It's clean, it's vertical, you can read it from top to bottom like a simple set of instructions. For so many developers, seeing this side by side is the big aha moment. So how do we build that beautiful chain? It's all thanks to a method called .then. You use it to say, okay, when this promise finishes successfully, then do this next thing. But here's the secret sauce. .then always returns a brand new promise, which is what lets you tack on another .then, and another, and another. It's the key to the whole system. And this solves another huge headache from the callback days, error handling.
Instead of having to check for an error at every single nested level, you can just stick a single dot catch at the very end of your chain. If any of the promises in that chain fail, the whole thing stops and jumps right down to your dot catch block. It is so much cleaner.
Okay, so chaining is amazing for tasks that have to happen one after the other. But what if you need to kick off a bunch of things all at once and just wait for them all to finish? Yep, you guessed it. Promises have a super elegant way to handle that too. Just imagine you're building a dashboard. You need to fetch the user's profile info from one API, their recent post from another, and their notifications from a third. You can't actually show the page until you have all three pieces of data back, right? This is where tools like Promise All and Promise All Settled come in. Promise All is your all or nothing option. It takes an array of promises and says, I'll wait for all of these to succeed. But if even one of them fails, the whole thing is a failure. Then there's Promise All Settled. It also waits for everything to finish, but it doesn't care if some fail. It just gives you a report at the end saying, okay, this one succeeded and this one failed. It's perfect when you need to know the outcome of every single task. So let's bring this all home. Why is this so critical to understand? Because learning promises isn't just about avoiding some messy code. It's about understanding the absolute bedrock of modern, asynchronous JavaScript. I mean, think about it. We get code that's a million times more readable. We can build and combine complex asynchronous flows without losing our minds. We get one single logical place to handle all our errors. And maybe the biggest one of all, promises are the engine that powers the next big evolution in JavaScript syntax. And that's async and await. If you've seen that in modern code, all it really is a cleaner, more convenient way to work with promises. It's what we call syntactic sugar. It looks different, maybe a little simpler, but underneath the hood, it's still good old promises doing all the heavy lifting. And that, right there, is the real takeaway. Promises didn't just change how our code looks. By taming that insane complexity and turning it into a clear, predictable sequence, they fundamentally changed what we were capable of building. They opened the door to bigger, more complex, and more reliable applications. So now that the pyramid has been flattened, the path forward is clear. The only question left is, what are you going to build?